I think Turing Machine is the Wordle of board games, and I do mean that in a good way. So let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? My name is Mike Murphy. I'm one half of the brothers Murph, and it's time to talk about Turing Machine, a game that has taken over my brain because it freaks it out in a great way, and it's a very satisfying game. So this is one where you are trying to use an analog computer, like a punchboard computer of sorts, to deduce a code, a 3-number code. Each number will be between 1 and 5, and you're trying to get to the correct code using these verifiers, basically these rules that the code must follow. You can ask questions of the verifiers that will tell you that, yes, this number is odd, or there's this many of this thing, or what have you. You can get basically parameters that the code must follow, and as you get those parameters, you will be able to whittle down the possible options until you are left with exactly one possible option the code can be. You will always get to an answer of, yes, the code can be exactly this because this code satisfies all the verifiers, and every other single code possible would not satisfy every verifier. But the verifiers don't give you specific information necessarily. So I'm going to take this down to the table and actually do a full play of one of the puzzles so you can see kind of how this works, because as I was learning it and reading the rules, it was bending my brain, and it kind of took me a moment to start playing it to actually figure it out. So I'm going to show you how this game plays. We're going to go through one of the puzzles together, and then I'll come back and tell you my thoughts on this one. All right, welcome to the table. I have selected a puzzle here, which is actually generated by the little browser and stuff. So I'm not taking anything that's in the box in case you are worried about that. This little browser can actually generate millions of these puzzles, which is really fantastic, and part of why I think it's Wordle-ish in nature, especially because you can do a daily challenge. Literally, there's a different puzzle every day for you to do where you're trying to be quicker than the AI, which I typically am not. But just to show you how this game works, because it's a little bit heady, at least it was for me when I read the rule book, I was like, what does this mean? We have these 4 verifiers in this particular puzzle. They can go up to having 6 different verifiers, which will give you essentially rules that the code must follow. For the code to be correct, it must follow each and every one of these verifiers' rules. And we don't quite know what the rules are yet. We just know what the rules can be, I suppose. So just to go over them real quick, this first one's going to verify whether the yellow number, which is always the second number in the sequence, is even or odd. So if I was to put in a test with an odd number here and it came up correct, that means, in fact, that middle number is odd. We don't know what the number is. We just know it can't be 2 or 4 because that would be an even number. So that's the first verifier. The second verifier will verify the number of 1s that are in the code. So if I did a test that was like 1, 3, 1, and it came up correct, that means I know there's 2 1s in the code, but again, I don't know where those 1s are. They might be in those spots. They might be elsewhere, but I do know there are 2 of them. Or if, of course, it came up incorrect, I know there's either fewer or more than 2 1s, but I know that there's not exactly 2 1s. This verifier will verify that the numbers in the code, are there more even numbers or more odd numbers? Do I have, is it 2 something and 4, or are there more odd numbers? This final one will tell you, is the code going in ascending order, not sequential, but ascending, so 1, 3, 4? Is it going in descending order, or is there no order to be found? All those things are going to give us information. From that, we will be able to eliminate possibilities from the code and hopefully get to the answer. So I think the first thing we should do is just choose a code, a proposal, which is going to be a 3-number sequence. I want to see about some 1s, so I'm going to go 1. Let's just do this. Let's just keep it simple. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, so we can test out some different things. What's really fun in this game is when you make your little proposal, you'll stack them in order, and they will always generate 1 square in the middle, exactly 1 square, no more, no less. These little shapes on the side are to help you line up to make sure you get to the right code, the right answer rather, for these verifiers. But you'll only ever produce 1 square in the middle that will be our metric that will line up with the little answer cards and stuff. I think it's a really fun bit of engineering they did on this game. So we can ask up to 3 questions with this proposal. We got to write in right here a 1, a 2, a 3. 3 is our proposal, so we can take some notes and stuff. We can ask up to 3 questions using 3 of the verifiers effectively. Let's go ahead and start off just right here with A. Let's find out if indeed the yellow number is even, because again, I have an even number here. So among these two possible answers, I'm asking the question, is yellow even? If I had an odd number here and I went to test this, I'm testing, is yellow odd? One way or another, we're going to get our answer because this is a binary option. Let's find out. So is yellow indeed even? You'll always want to line up your shapes. If your shapes are all lined up and you put it in here, this produces either a check mark or an X. In this case, I got a check mark. This means that yes, yellow is indeed even because it's an even number here. I'm doing this test. It's a check mark. That means that I have passed the verifier's test. So what can we learn from that? We can learn specifically that yellow is not going to be 1, 3, or 5 because that would be odd. That is impossible. We've already narrowed down pretty significantly on this second digit what is available. So it's either going to be 2 or 4. I might have the right number right here. Let's test over here. Let's see if the code is indeed in ascending order. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be sequential like I have here, 1, 2, 3, but it will be something that's ever going up in order. Is that correct or not? We will line it up. Boom. We got a check mark. That means indeed, we're on fire right now. Indeed, the code is in ascending order. So we want to make sure that with all future codes we make that we don't do 432 or 151 or something like that, because that would not be in ascending orders. That is valuable information to have indeed. One last question with this proposal. I didn't really expect 1, 2, 3 would like crush it so hard, but I'm happy for it. Let's find out if one of the numbers is 1. How about that? That'd be good. Because if it's ascending, if this happens to be true, and this is where the game to me gets so fun, if this is true, that there's 1, 1, and that's what we're testing for, we know that the blue number has to be the 1, because if it's also going to be in ascending order, nothing else can be a 1, because that would either be a non-order or a descending order. So if this is correct, we do know the blue number, just like that. Be there! Nope. Okay, that's a negative. Can't win them all. That's a negative. So all that's telling us is that there's not 1, 1 in the code. There could still be 0 1s, 2 1s, or all 3 of them. Well, we know all 3 of them can't be 1s because, again, that would not be in ascending order. Actually, do we now know that there are no 1s? Because if there's 2 1s, it can't be in ascending order, the code. If there's 3 1s, that's certainly not ascending. So I actually think we have our answer here, and I probably didn't even need to test that. Right? That's where I need smarter brains. Because if it's going to be in ascending order, we can't have a repeat number. So we know that now. Help me out. Put in comments if I'm making a big blunder, but I think there can be no 1s. I'm almost certain of this fact. Right? Because if there was going to be 1, there could be 1. And we tested that. There is not. I'm going to double check. Just going to double check that I got that right? You lined it up right, nice and careful. That is an X, which means it is not true that there's only 1, 1. And again, we're testing out that question because our code currently has 1, 1, and that's the question we are asking incorrect. So, I think we've eliminated all the 1s. Ooh, I'm going to go for it. No, I'm just going to write some notes here. On a multiplayer game, you can have a little screen so you don't give away your notes, but I want to give away my notes to you. No 1s. So I'm just going to go like this. Bam. All the way gone. We know it's in ascending order. So another thing we know is for blue, if it's going to have to be in ascending order, we know that it can't be 4 or 5 for blue. Because if we did that, there's not 2 spaces. The highest number is a 5. So if it's a 4, we could go 4, 5, and then we'd run out of room. So that can't be true. If it's ascending in order, let me write down a note. Ascending. Right? A is that even. We might actually be able to get our code right now. I think we can. Because as I was going to say, if we're going to go be ascending, we can't have 4 or 5 for the blue because we need enough room to keep going up. So I think I can safely eliminate those. We know that we don't quite have our code. We know that yellow cannot be 2 because if we can't have a blue 1, right? We can't have a blue 1. Can we have a blue 1? No, we know there's not just 1, 1. That's what we just tested. We know it can't be 2 because then it wouldn't be ascending. So we know that yellow is the 4. So if that's the case, then to keep ascending, I think we know that purple is 5. Purple out here sneakily getting answered. So I think we need to ask one more question because blue could be 2 or could be 3 and still be ascending. Could still possess no 1s. The one thing we must test is if there's more evens or odds, because that's going to give us our answer. Because there's more odds, then it's 3, 4, 5. If there's more evens, then it's 2, 4, 5. So let's make a new proposal. We have to do 3 per round only. Let's go 2 for the blue. And then we know that's 4 and 5, or at least in my great arrogance, I think I know. Could be a mistake. All right. Boom. I think the new proposal is 2, 4, 5. I'm feeling really good about 2, 4, 5. I'm going to write it down. Again, you can kind of keep track. And you have to do this so you can't be like cheat and be like, oh, I meant 3, 4, 5 the whole time. You got to write down, this is what my proposal is. Okay. Boom. 2, 4, 5. Let's ask one more question. You don't have to ask 3 per round. And in fact, you're trying to ask as few questions as possible if you're playing a competitive game to beat your opponents, or if you're trying to beat the AI, the machine. You want to ask as few questions as possible. So let's ask of this, are there more evens than odds? Because in this case, I have more evens than odds in my code, so that's the specific question I am asking. Let's line it up all nice and nice. No, there are not more evens than odds. So that means there has to be more odds than evens. If that's the case, I know that 2, 4, 5 cannot be, because that would be more even, so we will eliminate the 2. The only other way to have a correct code that will satisfy all the sequencers is to have 3, 4, 5. Let's double check. We tested earlier saying that asking if yellow was odd, and it was not, so we knew it was even. We have an even yellow here in 4. If we check this, there's no 1s, which we were able to deduce from all the various other information we had gathered. Cannot be any 1s, can't be repeats. We know that there's not more evens than odds, or must be more odds than evens. And they have to be ascending. So I think that leaves 3, 4, 5 is the only answer. So we gotta check. We gotta check. We're gonna test a code. Moment of truth. We're gonna go 3, 4, 5, right? 3, 4, 5. Let's verify victory. Yes, we got it correct. Indeed, it must be ascending. It must be an even number for the yellow, the middle digit. There are no 1s, and there are more odds than evens. 3, 4, 5, the official code for that. And that is how Turing machine works. Again, you are asking specific questions based on the code you have conducted. Now, that's one thing that, looking at this, it looks a little overwhelming because there's like, well, there's 4 options. So if I test since yes, isn't it all 4? It's like, no, it's based on the question, the proposal you have, the 3-digit code dictates which question among all the possible questions on that verifier you are asking, and that is what it is answering. So it doesn't give you specific numbers necessarily, but it gives you rules that you must follow. So good job, team. I did it. Maybe I did it recklessly, but we got there. Let me go back up top and tell you why I love it so much. Spoiler alert, I really love Turing Machine a lot. I think it's immensely satisfying. Let's talk about it. So as I spoiled in the beginning, during the gameplay, and after, I love this game. That's why I'm making this video, because I think this game has so much potential because of its immensely satisfying nature to me. It's so fun to start off with a random 3-number code and a bunch of rules and verifiers and have no idea where you are, and then to have things start to click, where you put something in, you verify something, or you get a negative result and you realize, oh, it can't be these things. It's a game about whittling out potential, you know, like things that it cannot be. And by doing that, you get closer to what you might need. And I find that to be so, so satisfying. And to me, it scratches a similar itch to Wordle, because if you haven't played, you're trying to find a 5-letter word, you type in a word, and it's gonna tell you, this letter does not exist in the word, this letter exists in the word, but it's in the wrong place, or you have the right letter and in the right place of the word. So here you kind of have a similar thing where I'm gonna produce a 3-digit code. I'm going to do a test and find out that yellow, in fact, is not odd. Okay, well, I can eliminate some things from that. I don't have my answer because the verifiers don't give you specific information about your code. It doesn't tell you it's 2 or 4. It just tells you what it can't be or what it could possibly be. And from that, you're able to whittle things down. So it's like, well, okay, based on that, maybe let me try a 2 so I can cross-check it off of another verifier. And the fact that you can kind of do that through a couple of guesses, in our case, we asked 4 questions via 2 proposals, 2 codes, we were able to get to our answer. So the fact that you kind of propose different things, you can ask different questions feels very Wordle-ish, where you're going through different attempts. And each time you learn something, and from that you have probably, hopefully, a more refined guess on the second go around. You can ask better questions to whittle it down further. And for me, there's always a moment in the puzzle, and some puzzles are harder than others. That was a fairly easy one. On those harder ones, you can be like way in the weeds, and then all of a sudden something starts to click, and that chain reacts into another thing, and chain reacts into another thought. At least in my crazy brain, it just kind of goes zip, 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 and I start to get places. And that feeling is so satisfying to me. When you get the hard word in a Wordle, it's so satisfying. You're like, ah, I thought of the thing, you know, and that's something that's very alluring. This also feels like Wordle because with that browser, which I highly suggest you use, you can produce millions of puzzles, including a daily challenge where you are literally presented with, here's today's puzzle, try to solve it. And they kind of do a step further because if you're soloing it, you can play it competitively. I don't particularly care about the competitive experience. I just want to get to the code. If I get it faster than my friends, that's great. But I just want to get to the code. Like if someone beat me to the code, do not tell me. I want to still solve it myself. That's why I'm here. So in the solo or competitive mode, what you're presented with is an AI that also went through the code, and you're trying to basically ask fewer questions. Every time you ask a verifier, that's asking a question. You can ask 3 per round, but you don't have to ask the full amount of questions. The fewer questions, the better. So you're trying to beat that AI. Can I ask fewer questions and get to the answer quicker than a machine? Usually in my case, the answer is no to that, but who cares? I got to the answer anyway. So I want to know what you think about this one, because when I started reading the rule book, and it's an odd read, I won't lie about that. When you read it, you're like, what does this do? You know, because I think of the way the verifiers are laid out and they present multiple options, it seems like if I get a check mark, then they're all true. And how does that work? And again, it comes down to the specific code you have will dictate which answer you are asking about from the verifier. So there's 4 options. You're only ever going to be asking about one of the potential answers. Is it yes or no to that potential answer? And so getting in and being able to play with this starts to help, at least my mind, to help me make sense like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm asking if it's even because I have an even number. If I had an odd number, then I'd be asking if it's odd for this specific digit or what have you. But I want to know what you think. Does this seem like something that would scratch an itch in your brain in a good way? Is this something that would not be something of interest to you? Because I could see absolutely busting this out daily to just do a quick puzzle, kind of warm my brain up, and then go on about my day. So Turing Machine for me might be the best deduction game of all time. Pure deduction, like pure, not even so much like logic, you know what I mean? Like puzzle game. Because there's not social deduction, there's not a traitor. It's just a logic puzzle kind of game, but one that is really satisfying. And these types of things, like these little mind games, have existed forever. And this one does it really well. The fact that you have like those punch cards and those verifiers, there's like 48 of them, and all of those potential answer cards can generate millions of puzzles. I just like, how do you even begin to think of creating that system, let alone actually creating the system? You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts on Turing Machine. I think it's absolutely incredible. If we play against my friends, if I can get an answer quicker than you, that's cool, but I don't really care. I just want to play with the machine until I get the code myself. Then I feel satisfied, even if I didn't like win. I couldn't really care less. That's why I will happily solo this, because I'm just trying to get to the answer of the question. Why are we here on this earth, you know? That's Turing Machine, everybody. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments below. And if you kind of like this format and you want to see more of that, also let us know. And if you're new to the Brothers Murph, please consider subscribing. Bye, everyone.